Ask AJ.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Ask AJ. And on today's episode, we're going to look at some more of the results from the survey that we released in mid-December, the SYKES survey on attitudes towards the COVID-19 vaccine. And as you may remember, a few weeks ago, we released an edition with a handful of the results from that survey. And so we're going to cover a few more of those today. And we're going to look at when people believe that the vaccine will be broadly available. We're recording this in mid-January. The two approved vaccines are already in distribution, and first responders and those in high-risk categories have begun the process of getting vaccines, and slowly we're beginning to see that extend to certain parts of the general populace. But when we asked people when they thought that the vaccine would be fully available to the general public, the vast majority of people believed that by the summer of 2021, anyone would be able to get access to the vaccine. And interestingly enough, we see a breakdown along gender lines here, with men being much more positive about the possibility of everyone being able to get the vaccine in the summer than what we do women. And if you tie that back to actually the very first question on the survey about whether or not the respondents were going to get the vaccine, predominantly more men responded in the affirmative than women. And so what that would lend to imply is that men feel much more positive about what the vaccine can do and feel more confident about when that vaccine is going to be distributed. When you ask people specifically about their families, again, we see things within a very similar time frame. More than half of the respondents to our survey felt like their families would have access to a vaccine within the first 2 quarters of the calendar year 2021. That would lead us through, certainly through the June timeframe, consistent with what we saw with the previous question. Again, what we see here is a fairly consistent belief by men that their families will have access during this particular timeframe than women. And we see a lot of similarities in the geographic and in the demographic spread on this particular time frame. So most people believe within the first 6 months of the year, not only will the vaccine be available to the general population, but also that their families will have by that time been vaccinated. It is the start of the spring semester in many colleges and universities. And so we asked the question whether or not our respondents believed that those going to college and university should be vaccinated in order to require to come back to campus. And the vast majority of our respondents believe that students should be required, over 60%. Again, an interesting note here in that it was college-age students felt very strongly that that they and their fellow classmates should be required to get the vaccine. So Gen Z was very much in favor of college students being required to get the vaccination, even more so than those who had just previously graduated. So that next age group up was not as strong in their opinion that vaccines should be administered to kids going back to college. And what's interesting about the Gen Z response is if you go back to the attitudes toward people in actually getting the vaccine, over 68%, nearly 69% of Gen Z said yes, they would get the vaccine. And so, again, very consistently, those attitudes are moving along a very consistent path where people are saying, I believe that I should get the vaccine. People should get the vaccine. For those in age groups going to school, they believe they should get the vaccine. And interestingly enough, it's their parents who aren't as convinced as the students. Gen X being on the lower end of our demographics around who people believing that college students should be required to get a vaccine. So again, just a little bit more information related to this survey. You can find the link to the actual survey in the show notes. And if you have any questions or you have any thoughts about any of this information, please feel free to leave it in the comments, and we'll see you again soon.